Hi, crafty organizing friends, and welcome to Get Organized Challenge number 7 of the 12-week Get Organized Challenge. Now, if you are new, you definitely want to go back and watch a couple of videos. I'm going to say number 1, the foundation video, and then number 4, the die organizer video, because we're going to talk more this week today about cataloging, and that was kind of the basic cataloging video. So you want to know kind of the ins and outs of that. This week we are doing punches, your handout punches, punch boards, and I've added templates and stencils. So thanks to those of you who wrote in and said, when are we going to do templates and stencils? I don't see it on the syllabus, and I had completely forgot about it. So thank you for that. We added it in today. Okay, so what are we doing? We're going to do the same thing we always do. We're going to gather together those items, the punches, the punch boards, the templates, the stencils, and we are going to start organizing and cataloging them. We're going to follow the same steps that you've been learning in every other process, right? So when we talked about dies are kind of all the same size. And then, when we did stamps are wood-mounted stamps and acrylic stamps or polymer stamps that are flat unmounted stamps. So that presented a little bit more of a different type of challenge. This week we're talking about stencils, and then we did embossing folders, and they're kind of all the same size-wise or dimensionally. This week we're going to do templates, stencils, embossing, stamp punches, and punch boards. So we've got this kind of big array of different types of materials or different types of products, but we're going to use the same strategies, the same methods that we've been using for the last couple of weeks to get those organized. So it doesn't really matter what it is, you're going to follow that same cataloging procedure. You're just going to choose different types of tools for storing those things. So same process, gather those things together. That's the first thing you want to do. You want to choose your storage and organization products that you're going to use. Now, this week, which is a little bit different than previous weeks, there are a ton of different options or types of options that can be used to organize these things. So the last 3 pages of your handout, so if you didn't print your handout yet, you can do it right here on the Creative Scrapbooker magazine page on the 12-week challenge under the week 7. There's a download printable. You can physically print it, or you can just save it as a PDF to your computer. But it's going to give you 3 pages of different types of options. So I'll go through them kind of quickly, but know that you can, if you can use things you already have, absolutely. But if you need other things or what I'm talking about, you're going to have links there all in those last 3 pages. So you can click on those and get more information about the different things. So let's start with the most challenging, which is in fact punches and punch boards, because they are so dimensional. So when you look at punch storage, what kind of space do you have? This is always how we always kind of the question is, do we have space where are you always only crafting at home, where you can leave things out and then you can do something like this tiered 4-level stadium arranger? So I've even got my punches for the planner punch in there, but smaller punches, larger punches, everything's right there at your fingertips. It's visible, it's accessible. You can do it for a variety of sizes of punches. You might need to compact things down, make them a little more storable, a little more portable, and that's when you're going to find things like the store and go bag. So this punch pack, this is exactly what this was designed for, was to hold medium-sized punches. Now I've created kind of a library. You can put it, you can stand it up, you can label the side, and then we're going to talk about cataloging and how to actually find those stamps or punches once you put them in a bag. So that's a great option for punches as well. I know a lot of you have great big punches, so even using the deeper bag is going to work for the bigger. So those are kind of the jumbo size punches there. And this is the 2-inch punch pack or store and go bag. Also, it's going to work great for those dimensional things we're going to talk about. Here it is, the alphabet punch board, right? So one of the challenges with punch boards is that you can't stand them up in a row. You can't stack them on top of each other because they are dimensional. So putting them into something like a store and go bag, and this is a 2-inch store and go bag. There's a 1 inch, a 1.5 is a great way to sort of get them under control and be able to slide them off and on the shelf, create that library, if you will. Now the bags are nice because if you're gonna go somewhere, you can take that whole bag with you. But if you always only craft at home, then you might wanna look for something that's gonna take those dimensional items like punch boards and make them more uniform in size and shape so they're easier to stack together. And that's when you're looking at something like the Slide Stash and Store or the vinyl rule organizers. So these take things like punch boards, right? I've got a couple of different kinds in here. This one has all the materials that came with it. And now they're a uniform shape and size. So now it's easy for me to slide those on the shelf, put them away. They don't interrupt each other. They don't get hung up on each other, and I can keep the instructions with them or the little parts and pieces that go with it. You know, if you use punch boards, all the little cutting heads come out of the punch board and they're so easy to lose. And that's where something like this becomes very simple because you just throw that cutting head right into the box and it's all on the shelf and it's easy to get to. Same thing with the bag. If the cutting head comes out and you have it in the bag, you've got that as well. So it makes it really simple. Those are the things you have to choose first going forward about punches. Are you going to display them out? There are some great bars that are really like a flat, almost a flat towel bar. So if you have a wall that can take the weight of punches because they are very heavy, you can hang those flat towel bars and then hang your punches over them. The biggest problem with those is the thickness of the bar and the openness of the punch. So some punches are really open. Right, so this punch has a lot of opening right here, so it's easy to hang over the flat bar, and some of them have a really narrow opening and it's not going to hang quite over that flat bar. So a couple things to keep in mind with the bar. The same thing, there are some cool like over the door, almost the shoe holders that like with all the pockets on it that you would hang on your closet door or something and use those pockets for punches. That works really well. Also, again, the door wasn't designed to have all that weight pulling down on it, so just make sure that you're hanging things where the weight from those punches is going to be, you know, it's going to work. You don't want to pull the door off the hinges or break the door with your, you know, over the door shoe bag loaded with punches. So keep that in mind as you're doing that. When we talk about templates and stencils, those are so similar to embossing folders and unmounted stamps, right? So depending on the size of them, that's going to dictate to you what type of tool you want to use. Do you want to keep them all together? Do you want to mix them in with what we've already done? So I'm going to start with Kiwi Lane templates. So Kiwi Lane tracing templates, that's what I've got in this box. And I'm going to show you the catalog of them in just a moment. But so here they are. I've just added that label to the pocket. This is part of this is a border, chevrons, borders, storybook lane or spooky alley or whatever they are. Just labeled really easy. They're all in the same box. So all the Kiwi Lane stuff, if I've got it in my catalog under Kiwi Lane, it's all in one place right here in this storage box. Now, if you had multiple Kiwi Lane storage boxes, then of course you're going to want to include that in your catalog. Kiwi Lane 1, 2, 3, however you're numbering those. And again, we'll take a look at the catalog in just a minute. With your stencils, you've got a ton of choices with stencils. You can group them by size, you can group them, you can use the catalog pages, you can use scrap rack pages, put them right into your scrap rack. You can create a binder of stencils, and I'll go through that in just a second. So really what you need to choose then is what kind of pockets you're gonna use with that. Are you going to put things directly into the scrap rack pockets? Do you want to protect them in a layer with something like, so these are our die stamp and stencil pocket. So a lot of times if you're using the brass stencils or you have something that's a little bit more delicate, you want to protect it in a pocket. So these are large, medium, and small of die stamp and stencil. They work great for your smaller items. Most stencils are 6 by 6 and larger, so then you're going to need to switch over to a bigger pocket size for those as well. So these, the upside to the die stamp and stencil pockets is they're the least expensive. So if you have the small ones or even the 6 by 6 fit in the large one, those are a great option for those as well. So keep that in mind. When you're labeling your stencils, you are going to, so I've got a group of stencils here that I haven't cataloged yet. you need to label the stencil and then also label where it's going in your catalog, right, or in your storage. Sorry, as you know, we've done this before. You're going to label the pocket, you're going to label the stencil, and then you're going to put the representation into your catalog and label that as well. So these happen to be the Tim Holtz style or shape of stencils, and these fit great in the 8x8 pockets. So I'll go through those also in just a second. One of the things I talked about last week during Tuesday Live, which I think I missed during last week's Get Organized Challenge, was this really super smart shortcut that I never thought of before in years of doing this, and that is ordering your label stickers. So you've seen me, I'll use my label maker and type out every number, or sometimes I handwrite numbers right onto the sticky label tape. So I ordered these on Amazon. There's a link in the handout to get them. Now, would I order them again? These are the least expensive ones on Amazon. Avery makes a similar label in a similar size. They're a little bit more expensive. The big difference for me is that Avery, the brand, has a really good template program where you can load an Excel spreadsheet with the numbers, which makes it really fast and easy, match it to the template. With this, the one that I bought, there is only a Word doc, and I don't know how to get all the numbers done without actually hand typing in all the numbers. So kind of a toss up there, save money, save time, whichever way you want to go. Now, you may decide that template doesn't matter because you're not going to do that anyway. You're just going to hand write your numbers on your sheet, which is what I ended up doing. In which case, I do have a little tip for you. So you can see the difference here. This looks like a plain sheet of paper. This, you can see all the sticker shapes on. So what I did was I peeled off the outside, the grid. I did it partially here before I started writing in the stickers. So this is what I'm talking about, this little outline grid. I pulled that off. The sticker's coming off too. I pulled that all off, and so now it's easy for me to see the edges of the sticker and where the borders are. So it's easier to write on, easier to center it, easier to take it off. So if you're going to hand write your stickers, pull off the framing around each of the stickers on the sticker sheet so you can hand write them. The other upside to handwriting over printing them is that sometimes you're going to have a sticker or an item, a stencil that goes in multiple sections. Let's say a flower. That maybe is going to go in flowers, maybe it's going to go in Kiwi Lane, maybe it's also going to go in spring. And so you need 3 labels that all have the same number as opposed to just the 2, one on the item and one in the catalog, right? So I'm finding it better to just handwrite the numbers on the sheet and then stick them on whatever item I'm working with. Okay, so what does that process look like? Oh, I also have these. These are newer pockets. These are the 8x5 pockets. I didn't even think about them for these, but they are a good size and shape for this type of stencil. So you can see how those fit in there. So these are the 8x5 pockets with the flap. Now, there is one downside to the flap with a stencil, and that is that when you lock the flap, if you don't have a sheet of paper between the stencil and the flap, depending on what the design is, and I'm not sure I have one here that would do it, but there's a chance you're going to hook the flap latch right into the stencil there. So something to keep in mind. So the 8x5 pocket would also work well. I'm going to use the 8x8 pockets though, because I'm kind of prepped up for those. So last week before too, we organized things and we left holes where it wasn't full. We left number holes, right? So this week, this is the embossing folder, die stamp and supply organizer that I put together last week, that I organized my embossing folders in last week. And if you remember, I left these little funky number cards where I had extra numbers because I didn't fill in those little spaces. And so back here, now you're gonna see where that came in handy. So I ended over here at 378 or 380, right? And then here are my stencils, and I just picked up the number 380. So these are 6x6 stencils. These are in the 6x6 pocket. And then I followed behind, oh, there's one, there's a 8x5 pocket. And then I've got this is the 8x8 pocket. Now, handily, let me find with 2 in it. I have a ton of these stencils from scrapbook.com. And what's kind of cool about them is the name of the stencil is printed at the top. So I've got 2 stencils in here because the stencils are actually 6x8. I can read the names of both stencils, but I've cataloged them under the same number. So if I was going through here, let me see if I can find my favorite here. So they're kind of in order. They started out in order with in alphabetical order because I already had them in alphabetical order. So they're already like in that, organized in that way. But as I add new things, it won't matter. So if you look, when you look through here, you see that those are that particular way. Now, let me go over here to my catalog. So it's the same process that we've been using. When we're talking about punch boards, this is the example of the ABC punch board, how big it is, the instructions for it, and where I can find it. I'm going to go right over here to my shelf and pull off the alphabet punch board. It's right there, okay? So it just ties back to the catalog. Even though it's big and it's bulky, it's a different shape, it's represented in the catalog in the alphabet section. Now, with that particular punch board, this was part of the packaging, right? So I know the size of them. So normally I would say punch out a couple of letters and put them in there so you know what the exact size is. But with that particular product, I got this nice cardboard letter and I'm just slipping it in there. All right, if we go here to look at some other things like punches or stencils, let's say I'm gonna work on something for Valentine's Day. So I'm going to go here looking for hearts, and I'm going to say, oh, I want to use this heart punch. So I've got at the very bottom of my heart page, I've got an example of the heart border punch, and it tells me that it is in the medium bag, and here it is. Oops, knocked that off the shelf. It's a good thing it didn't hit my foot. There it is. There's the heart punch right there in the medium punch bag. So it makes it really simple. Again, exactly the same thing we've been doing since we started with dies. We are creating that catalog that is going to drive us back to wherever it is that thing is that we want to use. Now I want to show you a little trick with these. Let me pull it out this way. I'll kind of stand it up. So after you load up your punch bags, if that's what you're using or something similar, I made a photocopy, a color copy just on my regular printer at home of where all of these went in the bag, so that if I took some of them out, it's like a Tetris game putting them back, but I printed that grid, put it in the bottom, and now I know where everything goes in that particular bag. So you've seen this with wood stamps. We did the same procedure with wood stamps. So anytime you can do something like that, it's going to be that much easier to put things away if everything kind of gets scrambled up. So your basic punch storage is the same thing, same as everything else. You're going to represent it in the catalog, right? We've got our hearts stencil in here. It's number 405. I'm going to go to 405. I'm going to pull that out. And there is my heart stencil right there. So I have 2 different stencils in there in one pocket. They're both number 405. If I was looking at borders and background, I would see this herringbone plaid right here. It would be numbered 405 also. 2 things, same number, but when you get to that envelope, you're going to be able to find exactly what you want. I'm going to pop that right back in. So it's really simple. Exactly what we've been doing. You just need to choose what type of storage you're going to use. Now let's talk about Kiwi Lane, and I'll just show you kind of a representation of that as well. So what we have for Kiwi Lane is borders, and let me find them. What I really need is my glasses here, backgrounds, And where did they go? Borders, borders, borders. Did I put it in my, borders. Borders, borders, here they are. Oh, no, I'm on flowers. I need my glasses, I guess. Okay, Kiwi Lane, flowers. So Kiwi Lane is tracing templates. This is in the flower section. These are all the flowers. I can go right to my Kiwi Lane box. Look at that, that is flowers. It is wildflowers. There they are. So there are all the templates for wildflowers, right? Now, again, you might represent these in flowers. You might put them in spring. You might put them in, I don't know, wedding, if you think that way. Whatever category you would think about using those particular products in, you want to categorize them there as well, right? So I've got these Tim Holtz stencils. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put 2 per pocket. One of these is damask. One of them is clock parts. I usually call that ancestry, like anything that's kind of old-fashioned or antique. This is going to go into backgrounds, right? This damask. So I'm going to make a representation of this. You can do it with a rubbing. You can do it with ink. You can do it on your photocopier. I'm going to number it 411, and I'm going to put that rubbing, that example, in the catalog, just like we've been doing for everything else. So there's no difference between stencils and other products, and that is really the key to this whole system. Is you're setting yourself up with an organization system where everything works the same way, so you can continually follow the same system. So let me just show you one other quick thing of, got this backwards in my hand. So then those are numbered. Now I'm just going to add them to my catalog. Now there's a couple of other things about stencils. Oop, put these right back. The most important thing about this is just sort of getting your mind around, this was all embossing folders. I have another one or 2 that are all stamps, and they have holes in them. I could fill in the holes of this with stamps or with dies or with stencils, or even with my Kiwi Lane templates. If I didn't want to keep them in the template box, I could store them in here as well, because the key is the catalog. It doesn't matter where you put it. It doesn't matter that things are mixed together. When you're looking for hearts or stars or flowers, you're going to see it in your catalog. You're going to follow the number to get you back to exactly what you want. It's really fast and really easy. Okay, so these stencils, this is an entire set of large alphabet stencils, right? I put them in the large die, stamp, and stencil pocket, and I put a couple different ones in each pocket. So you can see this is DEF. They're really thin. These are sewing stencils or fabric stencils, but they also work really great for scrapbooking and for home decor. And remember, your key is to get the highest and best use out of all of your products. So even though you bought this as a sewing stencil or a fabric stencil, it can still go right in with everything else, because not only will you see your alphabet fabric stencils, you'll see all the other alphabet stencils or ideas that you have when you're looking for alphabets. So personally, I use these to cut out pictures. Like if you're going to spell Disneyland, I'm going to cut pictures of us at Disneyland with these big letters to kind of spell out the word in photos. So, but I'm just going to pop those into one section here. They're all together, right? They're going to be represented in my catalog. Okay, but they're all together in one easy to find, easy to use thing. I'm going to give them a number. They're going to fit right in there. All right, now let's look at this. So this is one of the options for storing your stencils. This is a scrap rack binder and a 12 by 12 craft binder. And then I've used a variety of scrap rack pockets to hold the different sizes of stencils. So especially if you do the smaller things, the artist trading card, the brass stencils, they're all going to fit in there great, right? You've got 6 by 6, 5 by 7, 12 by 12, all the different pocket sizes, 8.5 by 11. So your bigger stencils are going to fit in there as well. Now these are still, the pockets are numbered, so you can add those numbers, add those catalog numbers and the examples into your catalog, and then it's going to drive you to your notebook to find all those stencils, or maybe you're going to keep this on your scrap rack. So that's a great way to do that. Now, here's my other little tip for you. if you take a piece of white cardstock, you can use any color cardstock, and you create a little envelope, a little pocket at the bottom, now when you put this stencil away, this one's not a big deal because it's just dots, but think about the ones with flowers and smaller cutouts. When you try to slide it into the pocket, the little cutouts get hung up on things, right? So giving it this little pocket, this little white paper behind it, means that you can slide it back into the pocket or in or out of the pocket really easily without it getting hung up on other things. And you can also put multiples in there using that paper as the divider. So this one would be one that would get hung up easily on other things. I've got the paper and I'm going to put them back to back, and now it's going to be easy to slide those into the pocket and use both sides of the pocket. Very visible, very accessible. So adding that paper pocket makes that really nice and easy. Also, if you've left it a little bit dirty, it's going to keep the other stencil behind it clean. It's going to be just this really simple way to get those stored and organized right in your binder. Now I've got my pocket hung up there. I'm just going to slide that in. And then you can add label tabs out the top as well that say chevron or whatever it is, so you know that there's one behind, or vice versa. So super simple way to do that. Really easy, just using scrap rack pages in the different sizes and then grouping again your stencils together by size. Whew. Okay, I think that pretty much covers the steps that we're going to take to get those things organized. You're going to gather them together. You're going to sort by size. The things that need to go in pockets are going to go in pockets. You're going to choose those organizers. Do you want something that's out and visual and accessible, or do you need to put things into boxes like the Kiwi Lane? Now remember, all of our pocket sizes have coordinating fab files or paper takers, so you can use these pockets like I have in a box like this in the Die Stamp and Supply Organizer, or you can take those pockets and put them into fab files or paper takers or whatever system that you want to use to get those, to have them visible, accessible, portable, depending on how you scrap. Okay, so you're gathering together, you are choosing your product, your storage, you're going to label, you're going to fill your storage containers, label everything with a number, and then go through and add those items to your catalog because you know what the number is to tie them back to. So this week you're going to follow those steps. You're going to organize, let's say 2 containers of punches, templates, stencils, 2 containers at least. And then you're going to set some goals right there on your checklist for the other things that you still are working on, maybe some embellishments, maybe some paper. Set that goal and finish getting those things organized as well. Of course, you definitely want to enjoy your reward. That is why we set up the reward program, so make sure you take advantage of that. And last but not least, don't forget to enter this week's contest. So on the Creative Scrapbooker magazine page, there is a contest entry every week, and you do have to enter every week in order to be in the contest, so keep that in mind. One last little thing too, if you're not a subscriber to Creative Scrapbooker magazine, check out the subscription page. It is a great magazine. Great articles, excellent ideas, really some great talent. The writers and the contributors to the magazine do an awesome job, so I think you'll really love it. Plus, it's just so much fun to get a magazine in the mail and open the bag and just have that smell. Oh, I love it. I love it when it arrives every month. Okay, a couple of tips and tricks here, things that I've learned as I've been going through and organizing these products. And the first one I already kind of talked to you about, and that was using the pre-cut stickers. So there's some tips there on your handout about stickers. Storing your instructions with your punch board so that you know how to use it, so make sure those things are kept together. And that's really easy to do if you're using a bag type storage or something like the vinyl roll organizer trays that I've used for these things. And then last but not least, if your punches are sticky, you know, you can sharpen them by just punching through aluminum foil. You can punch through a thin sheet of it, or you can double or triple it up depending. Start with 1, then 2, then 3, and get those edges really nice and sharp so your punches work really well. And if your punches aren't sliding in and out, if they are sticky sliding in and out, try punching them through wax paper, and that will help to sort of lubricate that punch as well. So just a few little kind of side item tips there. And then again, the last couple pages are just all about the different storage tools that you might use, what they look like, how they work, how to choose them. And of course, all of them are linked on the website. So if you want more information, you want dimensions, you want to know how much it'll hold or what it will hold, you can click on any one of the pictures in your handout if you downloaded it online, and you'll be able to get right there to that product and learn more about it if it's something you need. Whew. All right, my crafty friends, your work this week: punches, punch boards, templates, and stencils, and getting them into your catalog, getting them organized. You're gonna love using all your stuff. You know, it's one of the comments that I got this week was, it felt like Christmas when I was organizing my embossing folders because there were some I hadn't seen in years. So it was like discovering new craft supplies. So hopefully you'll have that experience again this week. You'll be excited and motivated to get those things organized so that you get the highest and best use out of them. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will talk to you all on next Monday for Get Organized Challenge number 8. Have a great week.